we have never reviewed an IPA.
It's apparently in a place in South Korea.
No, really? Beers in South Korea?
Apparently. And there's other
I
interesting
wonder
things.
if they know. Why are you wearing a beer tie? All right, what is that tie that you're wearing there? What is this?
It's a beer tie, my friend.
Why are you wearing a beer tie?
It literally has beer glasses on it.
I gotta ask the obvious question: why are you wearing a beer tie?
Well, my friend, like this is a one of a kind of occasion. Past 2 years now in the channel, and this is the first time that we're reviewing an IPA. So I had to dress up for the occasion here, like make sure I was properly dressed.
Isn't that insane? We've been doing this channel for over 2 years. This is officially review number 47. In 2.5 years, 47 reviews, my friend. We have traveled the beer world. We have never reviewed an IPA. We've talked about IPAs in Beer Bracket of the Month episodes and various different episodes, but never in a Beer Bracket beer review. This is the first one. And oh my, did we pick a special IPA from the Stone Brewery, based out of originally Southern California, San Marcos, and then Escondido, now also based out of Richmond, Virginia. They have a second brewery out there. Fear.Movie.Lions Hazy Double IPA. Oh, buddy. We were talking about this before we started filming, having never reviewed IPAs, and we've been open about this on the channel. We're not big IPA drinkers. We're beer lovers. We appreciate good beer, but we're not big IPA drinkers, and especially hazy IPAs. I don't know about you, buddy, but for me, it's not really my favorite style of IPA.
It's definitely a more interesting one of the offers, like in the IPA range. I mean, there's many different ones, obviously, but I agree with you. It's not probably one of the ones that I would go and get out of my way to get normally. But that being said, I'm very excited to try this one because I've never had it.
So excited.
And
so excited.
I do love Stone's beers. So
yeah, I mean, Stone makes a lot of amazing beers that I really, really love. And I have like a bit of experience with Stone going back a lot of years. It was actually probably at least the first American craft brewery that I had exposure to. They started in San Marcos, California, in San Diego County. And I remember at one point I was down there visiting my brother who used to live down there. And he took me down, and they were in a warehouse. Out of the front of the warehouse, they had a little bottle shop. And originally when they started off, they were selling a lot of kegs to local bars, local restaurants. And out of the front of this warehouse, they were selling beer to go. But mostly people were showing up with growlers. So people got wind of the beer, and they would show up at this warehouse, and they'd bring their growlers, and they'd fill up their growlers, and they'd go. And it was kind of like this little well-kept secret. And then from there, they grew and they expanded, and they moved out of that warehouse, and then they moved over to Escondido, California, where they got this beautiful, you would love this place, man. Going down there, actually visiting Southern California around that time, I really fell in love with their Arrogant Bastard Ale, which I could get here for a limited time, but can't get anymore. I love that beer. It's one of my favorites. Their IPAs are intense, though, my friend. They are really intense. So I'm excited to see how these do here. So Stone was founded by two guys, Greg Koch and Steve Wagner. So as I mentioned, they opened up in San Marcos, California back in 1996. Currently, right now, they're the 9th largest craft brewery in the U.S. Isn't that amazing, man? The 9th largest.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so you can find their beer in all 50 states right now in more than 40 different countries. So they've come a long way from that warehouse in San Marcos, California that I was telling you about. Another interesting fact about them, they were just among the first to pioneer the West Coast style IPA, which is pretty amazing. And this particular beer, my friend, it won the gold medal in the 2019 San Diego International Beer Competition, which is a very prestigious beer competition. A combination kind of the West Coast and East Coast styles.
So I knew I was going to be underdressed if I didn't put on my beer tie. So I'm glad I did.
I am so glad that you put on your beer tie for this occasion. So this name, man, it seems a little random at first, but I think You know where the origins of this name, right?
Yes, I do, my friend. And I, before getting this can, I had no idea about this system. Reading behind the can and then doing a little bit of research.
Some beer research.
It's a beer research, exactly, which is the best kind of research. Because
especially wearing your beer tie, talking about beer research, it comes off extra professional and extra legit.
Exactly.
It's impressive. You had time to change that shirt too.
It's I was shooting for impress.
Dress to beer impress.
If possible. Beer impress, exactly. The name, as you see, seems to have these 3 random words.
Seemingly,
which, at first I was like, well, I'm sure there's probably a story behind it. And there is, but it's a little different than what I expected. I was seeing connection between these 3 words. But the connection is actually naming convention that is used to address 3 by 3 meter squares all around the globe. So any 3 by 3 meter around the globe has 3 words associated with it. And specifically the one in the center of the brewery in Virginia that you mentioned, there's a square, the 3 by 3 meters, where the 3 words assigned to that space are exactly those 3. And as you can imagine, as a curious beer explorer, the first thing I did when I did that, I went on the website that has that, and I wrote beer.
Where does it bring you?
Apparently in a place in South Korea.
No, really? Beers in South Korea?
Apparently. And there's other interesting
things. I wonder if they know.
Close open bracket, which is also was interesting. There's some combinations that are interesting.
Oh my God, man, you really did your beer
I would
research.
definitely do some beer research. Yeah, definitely. I would invite our viewers and yourself, my friend. You can definitely come up with some fun combination and see where that takes you in the world.
Yeah, I looked up my address and it was
kind of fun.
Infected Insect Mountain or something like that. We love a good beer legend, and that right off the bat, it has a good beer legend. For our first ever IPA, you're in a tie. Let's get going, man. I cannot wait. Let's crack these beers open. Let's pour them out. Oh, wow. Smell that, man. Ooh. Smell that.
Ooh, yeah, I can smell it.
You can smell the haze coming over the mountains, the beer mountains. Oh. It's not as hazy as I expected it to be.
No, definitely not as hazy as I was expecting to. And actually kind of clear, at least mine here. I don't know if it's the same for you. I mean, there is a little bit of fog, let's say. Let's call it
Definitely
that.
Some beer fog. All right, buddy. This is a monumental occasion. Review number 47, 2.5 years in. Our first IPA review. Aroma, cheers.
Cheers to you, my friend. IPA, Aroma, cheers.
Ooh.
Yeah, definitely hoppy.
Yeah, very, very hoppy.
So yeah, interesting. First thing, it states here on the can, Laurel and Mosaic are the hops.
Yeah.
If you give it a second, and let that strong pungent hoppiness get through, you start smelling some of those secondary fruity aroma. Yeah. For me is peaches. I really smell ripe.
Oh
peach.
Yeah, I see that for sure.
A raspberry kind of I don't know if I'm imagining it, but it's this combination. If I had these very ripe peaches and mixed with raspberries in a plate.
I think there's a lot of different sweet fruit and sort of tart fruit that you could pull out of this.
And maybe that's that tartness is what I'm attributing to the raspberry. But I can see you're right. It's more like a tropical,
definitely
a pineapple kind of
very, very,
acidity.
very.
It's complex. I will say, now that the first intense wave has come through, I actually kind of enjoy all those notes that you can pick up in the beer. I think I'm gonna go with the 2, my friend. I actually kind of like it, but it's not one that I would normally seek for. Yeah. But I'm definitely very surprised. What do you think, my friend?
I really like what I'm getting. I think there's even a good amount of maltiness that I'm getting in there in the aroma too. But like you said, you could pick out any kind of sweet fruit, like you mentioned peaches, any kind of tart fruit, any kind of berry you could probably find in there too. It's not overly strong as an aroma. When you pour it out, it doesn't really punch you in the face, which I was kind of expecting from a stone beer. I was actually surprised by how mellow the aroma is on this one, but it's really nice. It's making me want to go in and take a sip. I always judge aromas by how much is it making me want to go in and take a sip, and how interesting is it? How well can I pick out the different elements of the beer. So though it's all there, I think a 2 is very fitting as well. Yeah, I'll go with a 2. I would actually like it to be a little bit stronger. Yeah. Cheers, man. Our first taste.
Cheers, my
of
friend.
An IPA in a review format. Let's do this. Oh, wow.
Ooh.
That's not what I was expecting.
It's definitely way less bitter than what the aroma was going to show, which, again, you mentioned that it's a mix of, West Coast and East Coast style.
Yeah.
And I do know that other hazy IPAs I've had tend to be more towards the juicy,
more towards the East
side
Coast
on the taste.
The Southeast Coast.
Yeah.
Southeast.
Northwest, south.
Yeah.
Depending on the inlet you're in.
Depending on how you're holding the beer
but,
mouth. Depends.
Yeah, exactly. And the more you drink, the more schlenkerlike gets. But just, hi, Matthias. I can see, some of that influence on the taste. You get a little bit more of those fruity aromas.
Yeah.
Definitely, I get more pineapple and peaches on the taste. Millions of peaches. Than I did get on the nose. Yeah. Breadiness way more prominent, but still it's way buried by the fruit flavors and that hop bitterness. It's really, normally we talk about how the hops are, sitting around and holding things around the breadiness. Yeah. Here is exactly the opposite. It's almost like the breadiness is just there to showcase all the other elements. Yeah. I'm going to stick with the 2 again here, my friend. I think everything is very well done, all in the right place. It's just to me, that fruitiness, a little prominent, so that's kind of what prevents me from going a little bit higher. But I understand that that's part of the style, so definitely well done.
We call ourselves beer barometers every once in a while. I think with the beard and the shirt and the tie, I think you're more of a beer accountant. I think that's what you've morphed into.
Definitely, my friend. I'm the beer accountant.
You're the beer accountant, and we're doing our beer taxes. It's that time of year.
I'm counting the P's and Q's.
And we got a refund on our beer taxes this year, doing our first IPA review. It's a nice little bonus.
There you go. Perfect.
You know what? I got to say, I'm enjoying this beer. I'm a little disappointed, and I'll tell you why. Stone beers have always been, like I said before, punch you in the face. What I know of stone beers, they're super flavorful. Almost where the first sip or two is you got to adjust to it. It's almost like you have to acclimatize yourself to this beer that you're drinking and understand, really take in all the flavors. They pride themselves on that. And this is actually, and I've tried a lot of stone beers. This is probably the most average of them that I've tried. I like it. It's nice, but I thought I was hoping for some more character from a stone beer. The taste, it's much more malty for me, I find, than what you got on the aroma. It's a little fruity. Same kind of fruit notes that I mentioned on the aroma you can pick out on the taste. It's nice. It's very drinkable. It's for a stone beer, I think it's probably very sessionable, which I wouldn't say about a lot of stone beers. I think 2, I don't mean to just sort of stay consistent with what you're saying and agree with you all the way through, but I think 2 is very fair. Now, buddy, mouthfeel, beer bracket tradition. Hope you saved a bit in your can.
There we go.
Let's do our refresher.
IPA refresher.
Yeah. This is so fun. I'm so happy that we're finally getting to do an IPA here. Yeah. Long overdue.
Cheers.
Overdue. Yeah, you definitely see it got a little bit more hazy now over time, once it's settled, for me at least.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see the difference compared to a regular, but compared to other hazies I've had, I would say I was probably a little disappointed on that. I was expecting a little bit more cloudiness. Yeah. But that being said, because sight is not a category in our, it might have
but
to
sound
be one
could
day,
be.
But not at the moment. The sound could be. Oh. And how is the sound? We haven't.
I can hear the Pacific Ocean.
I haven't.
Down in San Diego County.
I hear the waves. It's a good sound. It's a beer sound.
Saying, ask Alessandra if he can do my beer taxes for me. I need a good beer accountant.
How many IBUs are you bringing? Oh, percentage-wise, another accounting thing.
Oh.
We're sitting at 8.5%.
We haven't even mentioned the ABV, 8.5, yeah. Which, am I wrong? Is that high for I know it's a double IPA, so those tend to be high, but is it for a hazy? Is that a little high?
I think it's there in definitely in the range there. Like I would say like it's probably a little bit on the high side. And I will say I was going to mention it on the mouthfeel. Definitely, normally with beers this of high alcohol IBV, you tend to feel a little bit more of a presence of some sort. But I will say that this one here has this beautiful carbonation.
It really does.
It cleanses the palate mixed with that bitterness, leaves absolutely no oiliness, no stickiness. There's no like warming alcohol feeling that you get like with a lot of those higher IBV beers.
You're not getting the beer sweats?
On the carbonation, the beer sweats, yeah, they might come in a moment.
I'm starting to get them a little bit, actually. My face is feeling a little bit warm from this 8.5% stone beer.
The beer accountants don't sweat. Like, they all keep everything inside.
You can't be doing people's beer taxes with big pit sweat stains, man. You can't be doing that.
Yeah, that wouldn't be nice.
You gotta stay respectable.
But yeah, no, you know what, my friend, on the mouthfeel, I'm gonna go with the 2.5 because I actually kind of like it, considering how high ABV it is, and I do understand your point that you made earlier, and I will agree. Compared to other stone beers that I've had, this is probably one of the most the least offensive ones. But I kind of quite like the way they've balanced those elements:
really nice,
the alcohol, the carbonation, and everything.
As far as a double IPA goes, I'm sure anybody who's very, very well-traveled in the world of craft beer, if I say I've never had a hazy double IPA before, you're probably screaming at your phone or your computer screen right now at me, being like, what are you talking about? I've never had a hazy double IPA before. I've had plenty of double IPAs. I've had plenty of hazy IPAs. I've never had a hazy double. And I'm really actually enjoying this because I think it gives it this really creamy mouthfeel while still maintaining a certain level of carbonation that's really interesting, and it's really a good sort of conduit for all the flavors. And I think being slightly higher alcohol, the maltiness that I mentioned on the taste is kind of prominent, but the mouthfeel really transports that really well. We're reading each other's minds, man. I think I'm gonna go with the 2.5 as well. I was even thinking, like, do I want to give this a 3? I'm really appreciating this, but I save 3s for things that are like unique. I wouldn't say this is unique, but it's very good. So 2.5. Now, my friend, the finish. And oh boy, is the finish on this beer interesting. What do you think?
Oh, it is, my friend. Interesting enough, like some of the fruit flavors and aromas that you get, like kind of disappear a little bit in the middle of the beer experience.
They do,
Considering the fact that it's a double IPA, like I would have expected a little bit more of this prominent bitterness.
I think they disappear because they haven't done their beer taxes, and they see the beer accountant showing up, and they're taking off because they want to be beer audited.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably what it is. Like, and
I think so. I gotta say, I'm so happy that you dressed up for this occasion. I love it. This is such a monumental occasion. I'm loving this. Cheers, buddy. This is so much fun.
Cheers
so
to you,
much
my
fun
friend.
To finally review
That's
an
awesome.
IPA.
It had to be celebrated.
Yeah, it's a celebration.
So,
for sure, it's a beer bracket celebration.
It's a big achievement, you know. Like, it doesn't happen every day.
No.
Like, it's apparently every 47 reviews
47,
you get
yeah.
one.
It's like Halley's Comet. It's a beer comet that comes around every 47 reviews. You just have to wait. You have to.
That's what the IPAs are for us. So, guys, just be prepared. Another 46 to go, and then we'll get another one in, okay? And maybe I'll dress up for that time, too. We'll see. But I like that descriptor that you used in the mouthfeel, that creaminess. It has a little bit of that, like, almost like that same feeling you get when you're drinking a smoothie. That has all those fruits, you know, like with maybe also a little bit of milk, but it leaves a little bit of that, like
a residue,
that
like a texture
feeling
to it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of like that. It starts there, but then it evolves, and you get, again, like all those fruit flavors back. Very end of it, like it has this very nice and clean finish. So, you know what? Like on the finish, I'm going to still stick with the 2.5, my friend, because I actually kind of really like that. It makes me want to go back and take a sip and re-experience those flavors. Nice. So I really enjoy that.
The finish, unfortunately, for me is kind of like my least favorite part of this beer. The finish is very sort of reminiscent of West Coast IPAs. I think for me, that's where I see the influence, where it's very piney, very hoppy, very bitter, very earthy, and you get less of the fruit. It's not bad in any way, shape, or form. It's for me, that's not something I enjoy so much. And I think, to be honest with you, that's the finishes are the big thing that sort of makes me say that IPAs aren't my favorite style or one of my go-tos. It's very hard for me to find an IPA with a finish that allows me to enjoy it from the beginning of a pint to the end of a pint fully. I tend to tire of the finish towards the end of them. And I think this one is in there as well for me. And this is subjective. It's just me personally. But if I'm comparing it to other IPAs, you got to compare it. You got to rate it in context and the style. I'm going to go with a 1.5. It's my least favorite part of this beer. It's a good beer overall, but the finish is kind of my least favorite for that reason I just mentioned. So 1.5 for me on that one. But now, my friend, the overall beer experience where all those intangibles come to play and mingle together from beginning to end for Stone, Fear, the Movie.Lions Hazy Double IPA. And I got to say, I'm really interested that the LCBO here in Ontario, this is the Stone beer that they've decided to import, or interesting, or alternatively, this is the beer that Stone decided to export. I find that really interesting because they do have such an interesting wide range of beers and an established lineup of beers that they've had for a long time. They have so many amazing porters in their lineup as well that I would love to see here. I find it interesting that this particular one is the one that they've exported, but because I don't think it's their strongest outing.
See, the overall is normally my favorite category, but today is even more my favorite because where the accountant comes in, I can start wrapping all the numbers together in the overall.
The beer accountant. You got to wear that tie more often now. You got to break out the beer accountant. That's
right. That's right. Like I said, it's going to be a new tradition. I think this beer is, surprising for a lot of things. To me, a little disappointing on a couple of things. One is the fact that, I was expecting it to be a little bit hazier compared to others that I've had. But that's not part of the category, so I'll keep that in mind. But the other one is the one you mentioned, considering other Stones beers that I've had, this is probably one of the, I wouldn't say the most mild ones I've had, but it definitely has a more tamed form.
Sorry,
if you allow
sorry to interrupt you. Have you poured out your entire can?
I have not yet,
I think there is some sediment because I poured out the entire can and look at mine now. It's a lot hazier. Is yours still the same? Oh, okay.
Let's see. It does get a little bit hazier. You're right.
Because look at mine. Mine looks like a proper sort of hazy IPA now.
It definitely has a little bit more haziness right there. You're definitely right, my friend. I still would say, and we were talking about this before the episode, looking at more of the East Coast style.
Wait, Northeast or Southeast?
Some others that I've had, just the way they would pour also. Sure, granted, it definitely has more haziness right now. Just the thickness, the way that it would look. But again, that's just
for sure. For sure. Yeah.
A little general note. Yeah. But the fact that it's a more tamed version of the Stones still sticks there for me. So I think I'm going to go with the 2. I think the 2 is where I'm going to land.
Yeah. Every time I have a Stone beer, I'm expecting an experience. At least having tasted their beers from their inception not right at the inception, but back in the beginnings of the brewery, in their beginning phases, and having fallen in love with the Arrogant Bastard Ale. And like I said, I love their porters, and I always expect a really unique beer experience with Stone. And for me, this is a good beer, but it's very kind of average. I've had a lot of IPAs that were hazy IPAs specifically that were kind of very similar to this one. It's good. It doesn't raise the score above a 2 though for an overall. So I'd say 2 is fair. So calculating our final scores, friends, for Alessandro came out to a 3.66 on 5, which on our rating system is a great beer. And for myself, it's a little bit lower, 3.33 on 5. And I think that might come down to my love of Stone and hoping for something a little bit more unique and a little bit more powerful. But 3.33 on 5, which is still a great beer in our rating system. Let us know down below, what do you think of Stone Brewery? Have you tried any of their beers? Let us know if you tried this particular one. What do you think? Did we grade it fairly? Let us know down below. And no matter what you do, don't forget
to close your beer bracket.
Yes. There we go. You did it. You did it. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.